Back, baby.
How's it going, everyone?
Oh, yeah.
Welcome back to
We're back. Hey, boy, do I miss those days. But the climb continues.
Welcome back, everyone.
Florida State, Florida State, Florida State. Woo!
Welcome back, everyone. We're at the end of the week here. Thanks again for taking the time to join us. If you're new to the channel, we are Seminole Sideline 365, bringing you sometimes the latest, sometimes the greatest, but always our true thoughts and commentary on everything
and
FSU
our
athletics.
Every day, we bring our best to every program for the fan perspective. The fan perspective. Please, motivate us a little bit. Now, remember, somebody said, if you hit the subscribe once, do I have to hit it again? No. If you subscribe, you subscribe. And trust me, it's free. It's free.
For now. If you get that now, you don't have to pay later.
Yeah, then when we get the premium channel, you'll be historically already linked in, okay? So hit subscribe one time and then hit the like. Hit the like every time you're on,
and the bell.
Hit that bell, man, because you can also play this as a podcast. You just roll it up on your car and listen. We're not like dancing around here in the nude or something.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah.
That's for the paywall.
We can bring someday. We'll bring Gus and Booten in and let them do a little entertainment. That may be the key.
And those are my dogs. If anyone's wondering. So.
No, don't tell them that.
All right. Well, we got a couple of things to talk about tonight. The big focus is, of course, the defensive line. We're going to do a small breakdown of that. If you didn't catch our show note from earlier today, do we want to go ahead and just cover the news of what kind of broke today? I know we covered it in a breaking note, but if anyone's not aware of it by now, you may just be getting off work. Or just catching up on Florida State news. Jarvis Brownlee is no longer a part of the program. He has officially entered the portal. And from what I've heard, it's a mixture of things, is that it was kind of a deadline he had to either decide if he wanted to be with the team or just get out and enter the portal. That's what people are saying. So, but it was more of a, you're done. And so he's in the portal. So, we wish him the best of luck. There is still some unclarity of, was his NIL related? Did he not? Was he not? Is that why he was holding out a bit? We really don't know. And that's why I don't like to speculate, because it is still pretty murky of what the finer details are. I'm sure they'll come out at some inopportune time during the season, which makes Florida State look bad, because it will be some story that it gets thrown into a bad light. But, he gets the opportunity to move on. Some programs have been rumored about maybe Miami taking a look. He's from Miami, potentially FAU, since Taggart seems to take a lot of ex-Florida State kids in and, find a way to use them. So there, he could be transferring out pretty quickly. He does have talent. He came on towards the end of the season last year, and he'll definitely find a home. But we really don't know what happened and why the relationship deteriorated so quickly. But we kind of wish him the best. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I got a few thoughts. I mean, this wasn't the focus of our program. Then we're going to get into that focus. A few thoughts. First of all, I think the NIL thing is just trash. I don't think there's any real fire to that smoke. I think that was more.
Oh, you mean the story is? You don't mean the legislation.
The story. Okay. I think the NIL is is not the reason he's leaving. Okay. Now, Jarvis was in 20 of his 21 available games.
Yeah.
He was I think last season, the third or fourth leading tackler on the team.
Yeah.
He picked off a couple of balls. He had some physical plays, and he had the big downside. And that big downside was the label put on him for giving up the touchdown for Jacksonville State, which cost Florida State the game. Now, in that video, you see the receiver running his way, and then he gets planted by some other guy, some other receiver running down. He gets literally planted. I don't think we can blame the loss of that game on Jarvis Brownlee. I think he was on the field with 10 other guys at the time, and that I think maybe the coverage that the coaches called in was a huge error. So to define his stay at Florida State on one play in one game, I think is a huge misconception and is wrong. Okay, so that's my thought there. So I think the NIL story he was holding out for that reason, I think is trash. I don't think that's a good story. It was never confirmed by anybody, including him. And we did reach out to Jarvis and invite him to come on the show. He's welcome to come on anytime, whether he's with Florida State or not with Florida State. So we'll leave that there. Now, the question is, why did he leave? Okay. I think the real story that'll come out was he was having some trouble potentially with his position coaches. He probably didn't like additional competition coming in. We're talking not freshman high school guys who didn't know a thing. Mm-hmm. We're talking about some players that have been around, and now that defensive back room is really full of some guys who can play. Also, Cooper and Knowles stepped up. I think they gained a step on him and actually stepped by him. So he saw his role diminishing. So I think it hurt his feelings a little bit too in that regard. Yeah. So given those aspects, I'll add one other thing and then we're going to move on. Does he have a potential NIL deal in place, ready to go at another school for some reason? Did somebody call him up and potentially offer him something and he's leaving for that reason? And if that's true, he should move through the portal pretty quickly. I don't think now if they want to show like that wasn't in place, then they'll drag it out, but he knows where he'll end up. I don't think he'll end up in Miami. I don't think he's going to end up at another ACC school or an SEC school. I don't think he'll end up at a Power 5 school at all, because I don't think they're going to offer him an NIL deal. He could get one potentially, like you said, at FAU. He could even end up.
Well, if you don't think it's about NIL and if it's just about a position coach thing, then I think he'll absolutely be picked up. He has talent to either be a strong backup or at any school in the ACC.
Oh, I agree. Or he could play the nickel. He could come in on special situations, play nickel. He's got some talent.
He has numbers to back up some of that production. So he's young. He's got 2 more years to play.
Yeah, he's got plenty of tape to back him up. He's not the biggest corner out there. I
don't want to spend all night talking about him.
I don't either. But what I wanted to say is we wish him the best of luck. He's welcome to come on the show, discuss his thoughts anytime. So that's it. Jarvis Brownlee out of here.
Yep, and we wish him luck.
No, wait a minute. The only other thing is Coach Mike stayed with it. He didn't put anything out on the air. He didn't talk negatively about the kid. He just let it fly. And I'm a little surprised that no reporter on the sideline said during those sideline interviews, "Hey, where the hell is Brownlee?" No one asked that question that I'm aware of.
I don't think they like to speculate.
You know why? I think they don't like to throw the hard questions because they're a little afraid of their access. I mean, absolutely. I don't think that's a hard question. You're looking around. That's why you're there. You're taking all those photos and videos. Hey, Coach, where's Brownlee? Is he hurt?
Yeah. All right. We'll move on from that.
Okay.
But, all right. So, so we'll drop into where we wanted to, or what the topic of tonight's show really was about, is the defensive line. As we know, we're losing some major pieces this year. To start off with, going into last season, utilize the transfer portal as one of the best teams in the nation, and bringing in Kier Thomas and Jermaine Johnson. So, kudos to staff for identifying those guys and getting them to commit. Both those players, Jermaine from Georgia, underutilized there, got an opportunity with Florida State and made the most of it. And he's probably going to be a top 15 pick in the draft in a couple of months. And then you have Kier Thomas out of USC, South Carolina. Same thing, was a solid player. And I think he'll probably get drafted somewhere in the mid to late rounds, just based on his production and his frame as a football player on the line. So, it hurts. I should only get those players for a year, but that's what the portal gives you, is the ability to really upgrade a position group quickly if you can find those guys that are underutilized or just looking for an opportunity for playing time and in the right system. And so, do you want to start there, or do you want to first do an overview of how the line looked at overall last year?
Well, I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on an overview of what was last year. Last year was last year, and we know we lost a couple of key pieces, big pieces of the puzzle, and you've already mentioned those guys. Yeah. Those guys, the production of those two guys, they were well-rounded. They had been through a few years of college camps and played games and were in the battle. So those guys are going to be tough to replace. And if we don't replace some of that production, it's going to be a long year in the secondary where we're going to need a full room. Okay. So I think you've touched base on that. So I think we spend our time talking tonight about what we do have and what the expectations are. First of all, Adam Fuller, he's been up and down with the fan base. He's been up and down. Now his numbers, the defense got better in numbers, but they weren't a top 50 defense in the country. They weren't a top 50 defense.
Sure about that?
I don't know. Look that up. Okay.
You're saying it.
I'm just saying. I don't think they were a top defense overall in the country, but they did make strides. The year before, they were like 135 or something. Okay. Now check. Hey, any fans out there, check my facts and figures and throw us a note.
So Football Insiders has them at number 43 in defensive FEI ratings.
Okay. From last year?
Yep.
Okay. So they didn't break the top 40. All right. So I said top 50. They didn't break the top 40. To this team to win 8 games, everybody says, they can win 10 games. To win 8 games, you're going to have to be within the top 50 without a doubt.
That's not true.
Okay. We'll talk to schedule.
Well, within the top 50. Yeah.
Okay. So Adam Fuller's job, he's got to keep showing progression there. So we've gotten into the top in between 40 and 50. He's got to get within the top 35, I believe. He's got to get within the top 35. He likes a base defense of a 4-2-5. He'll shift that around a little bit. And he's got Randy Shannon now on the field, former head coach of Miami, Randy Shannon. He brings a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge. He's the linebacker and co-defensive coach. So I think that's going to help this defense as well. Plus, this defense has now been with Fuller this will be their 3rd season. So they should really, even the guys who haven't played a lot should understand where the hell they're supposed to line up. Yeah. And if they don't know where to line up, then we need to get somebody in there who does. Now, you check my numbers. They have a very large room, and I would expect they had to expand their defensive line, and we're going to throw the defensive ends in there as well tonight. That room has got to be huge. Now, I know they probably don't meet together, but that defensive line, defensive end is huge. By my count, on just defensive linemen, there's 13 names on the roster. 13 names of D tackles on the roster. Mm-hmm. Some of these guys you've never heard of before. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that, but they're on the roster.
Yeah.
But the two guys that are going to have to really pick it up inside, and I believe that they have the potential to do it, and these could be money years for them. Mm-hmm. They got to get it on tape, and they're run stoppers. They're not going to get you a lot of sacks, but they're run stoppers. Robert Cooper and Fabian Lovett.
Yep.
These guys are going to have to bring it. Cooper, big, strong guy. He's not super fast.
Trench monster.
On his feet. Yeah, he's a trench monster. You know, he's over 300 pounds. He's a 4x4 guy.
He's
4 yards this way,
like
4 yards
plus.
this way. But the big thing on Big Coop is, does he have the stamina to stay in the game? Okay, because when he comes out of the game, there's going to be a huge drop-off.
Yeah.
So he's a stuffer. He's not a chaser. He's a stuffer.
Yeah.
Hold that middle. Love it. Big, faster than Coop. Faster guy than Coop. He extends the box out maybe 6 yards by 6 yards. So he can chase down some people, but he's a run stopper. He came over from Mississippi State in the transfer portal a year ago. And these two guys have to stay healthy, and they have to stay in the game as much as possible. So I'll start with those guys. Your thoughts on those guys?
I think both of them are, the veterans, the guys that are I think you know what you're getting with Cooper. It feels like he's been here for a decade already. He came with Marvin Wilson and those guys, and he's been here, I feel like, through 3 coaches. It feels like with Jimbo, then Taggart, and now I think with North, it just feels like he's been here forever, but he's solid. You know what you're getting with him. He's going to clog the middle, not going to be great in pass rush, but he's going to hold that middle down. So if you can get the guys off the edge to get any penetration, you're going to have a solid guy over center of the ball. And then, like you said, Fabian, everyone loved him last year, to the degree that people thought that, if you didn't bring Jermaine and Kier in, that, he may have shown a little bit more. It's just because, he was an all ACC honorable mention. And when he was on the field consistently, he showed some flashes. So I'm excited to see what he can do, especially as a transfer. He had to learn the system, and now being in the program a full year, I think I'm excited to see what he can do, because he has the body type to be really, really good. So I'm excited for those two guys, and I think they'll be your consistent players on that line. Absolutely.
Yeah, both these guys are going to have to be strong leaders on the defense.
Yeah,
these are the guys the team's going to rally around. These are the guys that are going to be pounding their chest and bringing it. And and they have to bring it in the big games. It's not in the weak games. It's in the big games.
Yeah.
Okay. We put, they can get more rest in the weaker games, which, there's some on the schedule, and let these guys bring it. But this is definitely money years for them. And this will decide how high they go in the draft next year. Now, Love it. Everybody thought maybe Fabian would go out, but I think agents got in his ear and said, no, I think you need one more year of development, and you can have a big year, like Jermaine did. Almost.
Yeah. If he can pop off for 6, 7, 8 sacks this year,
right?
His stock will go up 2 or 3 rounds.
And I think they have a great relationship. I think everybody in that room has a great relationship with Coach Odell Hagens. I think they like him, they respect him. And I think he's expecting a big year out of his room and out of these guys in particular in these guys.
Yeah.
Now let's go through what happens when they come off the field.
Yeah.
The interior defensive line guys, the run stoppers. Who's the next guys up? Well, you got Markham Ray, you got Jared Jackson, who also came in from the portal. And you got Joshua Farmer, young guys. They don't have a lot of game experience, but the two guys, I think they all can contribute, and they're going to have to contribute.
Yeah.
I'm sure Coach Hagens is telling them, this is the year you take the big step. We need it out of you this year. Yeah. And these should be 3, 4, and 5 on that depth chart. So we have our top 5: Coop, Lovett, Ray, Jackson, and Farmer.
Yeah.
Those are the top 5 guys, interior guys. And then the rest.
But at the same time, I think you're right there. But guys like, Melvin Ray is someone that I see being referenced a lot and being talked about. It could be somebody as a reserve who came on for Florida State towards the back end of the year. That could be someone as a tackle. Could really come on. So that's someone I think we should look at too, as someone who with that
I
rotation
said
of
that.
Jackson.
I said that.
I thought you only
Ray.
said
No, I
Jackson.
said Ray.
Okay.
As one of the top 5.
Okay.
Of the guys to come in and spell these guys, because if we don't get off the field, the key for Coop and Lovett is we're getting off the field on 3 downs.
Yeah.
They can't sustain long drive after long drive. That's not going to work. It'll wear them down. And once they wear them down, then the opponent gets into our depth, which is questionable at this point. It has to be. I think that's a fair assessment. It's questionable. Somebody out there thinks we're wrong on that. Let us know. Now, then we move into the next level. Let's say, like in hockey, you have the third, you have a first wing, a second wing, and a third rotation. I'm saying it's Dennis Briggs. Now, I'm going to say on Dennis Briggs is probably going to move outside. He's probably going to be on the DN side of things. And we'll talk about that more in a minute. But he can also play inside. And then you've got Quayshawn Fuller. I think this kid has the most potential of all the backups. He's ready. He's ready to make the next step.
I think, he's had the most potential in terms of he was one of Willie's top recruits, but we haven't really seen what he can really do yet. He hasn't really kind of come to that potential hasn't come to fruition yet. So he's got the frame. Just he really hasn't shown it yet. So I would agree with you there.
Hey, shout out to one of our loyal subscribers, Wendy Lackowitz, listening in from Virginia. And I think she said in another comment, she's listening in on her car just like a podcast. So good for you, Wendy. Thanks for joining us tonight. And then we get into the rest of the roster. Let me go through the names. You tell me if anybody pops out to you. We've got T.J. Davis, George Wilson, and Byron Turner. Any of those jump out to you? George Wilson jumps out a little bit. He's shown some flashes of potential, and he's been on the roster a year. So,
he was one of those guys that maybe was making the transition from basketball. He was a basketball recruit, and they were transitioning him, and I think they just liked him as an athlete on that line. All the guys you mentioned, I think, are guys that they're kind of developmental projects that they need 2-3 years, and most of them are either redshirt freshmen or redshirt sophomores. That now they're in their, going into their 3rd year, and this is
a couple of them are second
or third year. Yeah, so they're going into them. So I don't think either any of those guys, except for maybe Fuller, is really going to have the potential to make a huge impact, and I don't see any of those guys you mentioned making a
I think George Wilson is a guy could potentially be moved to the outside. I think because of his length. I think he could potentially be moved to the outside. And then we've got some other guys. And they're mainly first-year guys: Aaron Hester, Bishop Thomas, Lehman McCormick, Daniel Lyons, Dante Anderson, and Makia Menzer. All like new names on the roster this year. Okay. Now, a couple of those guys could be walk-ons for all I know. I don't know if they're all scholarship guys.
Dante Anderson was a recruit they just got in. He was like a 4-star that nobody, for some reason, Florida State was able to add at the last minute. That wasn't. It was weird. He was a weird story. But he was a 4-star that they got into the class. Hester, same thing. He was he's
Hester's a legacy guy.
Yeah, but he's a 3-star recruit. I wouldn't expect him to contribute.
I don't know if FSU's policy. I don't think they take every legacy guy. They must take legacy guys if they think they have potential.
They haven't got there's been a lot of good legacies, but they haven't gotten a lot of them. That's
right. You're right. Now, that's like 13 inside guys. right
I think
there.
a lot of these guys are going to be projects.
Well, they are, and they also play on the scout team and
Yeah.
try to gain experiences that way. And then they get into some backup roles in games if we're ever blowing somebody out, which is not really going to happen a lot.
Yeah. So I think most of the guys you mentioned are not going to see much at all playing time. I think they came in understanding that they're going to develop, they're going to get in, get their bodies right, go through strength and conditioning, which a lot of these players need. You at all, if rarely see any freshman defensive lineman making a difference, because it's just impossible to be ready for it. So I think anyone you just mentioned is going to need another year, probably two, to really see if they're actually ready to compete and play at Florida State.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Let's move to the defensive ends.
Yeah.
That's where the production replacement program has to get fired up.
Yeah.
Because Jermaine Johnson really had his money year. We don't need to go through that anymore. He's going to be tough to replace.
Yeah.
The guy they expect to replace him with and to that production is Jared Verse. Now, Jared Verse is the transfer in from Albany State. Jared Verse is carrying a huge burden on his shoulders just because of the media coverage and even from the coaching staff. But if you listen closely to the coaching staff, they have not been saying, oh, this guy is Mr. World at this point. And I hope that's because they're playing it down and the guy is just tearing them up out there. But they're not saying much. Okay. And if you listen to the coaches' interviews that come out from the media and read the transcripts of some of those, it's like these guys all go to the same class. I don't care what school it is. It could be Oklahoma. I listened to the new guy who went there from Clemson, Ben, what's his name? The new head coach. He was the defensive coordinator at Clemson. Real fiery guy.
Venables.
Venables. Yeah. I listened to him talk about spring, and it's the same thing. It's the same thing that Coach Mike says. They all say flashes and this. We got to clean this up. And, you learn nothing from that. Yeah. So the bottom line is Jared Verse right now, he's in camp. That's a good thing. Everybody's in camp working. But he's the pure edge rusher. The question is, can he play the run sufficiently enough, or will he be a specialty guy going in? I
think he's going to start off the line to begin with. I think he's going to have that same. He's played. He was a level down playing, but he got to play against Syracuse, made some big plays against them. He has the size and the body.
Yeah, he's 6'4", 250.
I think it's more his technique that needed work more than anything.
Yeah.
But if those are the things they're saying, he just needed to clean up some of his technique and to be more fundamental about it. Because I think a lot of the guys in college at FCS, he could kind of bully at times. That got, but those are fundamental things I think he can fix. So I think day one, he's starting on the edge, just like a Jermaine would. And I think, they may rotate some guys in, but I think he'll be ready to play.
Yeah. I think he understands what he wants. And I think he is motivated. I think he's going to be a leader by showing what actions are on the field. And I think as the fan base, we need to give him a chance to get warmed up.
Yeah.
He's
a redshirt sophomore.
He's got some eligibility here. Yeah. So let's not put too much burden on his shoulders at this point. Okay. And then Dennis Briggs, he can play. We talked about him playing inside. I think Dennis Briggs is going to play on the outside more this year because I don't think the room on the defensive ends, we don't have a good array of those right now. But I think Dennis Briggs has got the speed to play outside. He's 6'4", 282. I think he could really make a living out there. Yeah. And I think he'll be an interesting guy to watch out there. Derek McClendon II, 6'4", 255. He's more of an outside guy. He had 3.5 sacks last year. I don't know what games those were in, if they were in mop-up duty or what. But Derek McClendon, I think he could be the surprise at defensive end for us. I think he could be the surprise. Watch his number when the games start playing. And then we got some other names, not well known. Marcus Kuzny. He had 1.5 sacks. Patrick Payton. And I believe Chambry Jackson will come over as defensive end. I think his size tells us to move him outside and not play on the interior side.
Yeah, Kushner's playing linebacker, so I don't know why you had him on the line.
No, well, he's listed. If you look how he's listed on the roster, they've got him listed with his hand down or stand up. And I think you're going to see that they're going to move some of the 1 or 2 linebackers like Marcus down because they need the edge rushers.
No, they need linebackers.
Well, we need edge rushers too, right?
I think you have guys on the roster. You brought in a guy. You have enough. With Briggs and McClendon and Verse, and then you have other guys on the roster that can do it without taking up a guy that you transferred in to play linebacker for you.
I think we'll have to watch and see where Kuzny is lining up. But I think they're going to need some help down there because if you get one injury down there, I think you're already into trouble because it's a questionable. Big question mark anyways. Well, we've got a lot of big question marks, but that's that one for sure. But that's who we have in the room. We must have 20 guys in that room on the defensive line and defensive ends.
Yeah. And like you said, I think I still think they do have another 1 or 2 transfers available that they may be looking at post spring after spring games to wrap up in April from across the country. And defensive end, they may be looking for a veteran defensive end, another player to push that room a little bit to see if they can get production as a backup to Verse or Briggs or bring in someone who maybe it could be someone who got, some like the next, Jermaine Johnson who's looking for to get on the line opposite a Verse and start right away or has the talent, just hasn't been able to showcase it. So I think they may have one of these slots open for another defensive lineman or someone on the defensive line. So it may be interesting to see what happens at the position because there may be another addition or coming in the next month or so. So that'd be something to look out for.
Yeah, I had a note here about that. I do believe they will look into the portal for another defensive end edge rusher type guy. Yeah. I think they need that. And I think you're going to see a guy come in. I think they're going to get a guy who feels he's maybe used as a specialty guy on another team, maybe as an edge rusher, kind of like Jermaine Johnson, but he wants to be in the game both for run and for pass. Yeah. And he could come in. It's not like a receiver. You don't have to learn. I don't want to say it's uncomplicated, but he can come in and plug and play in fall and be ready to go.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see if any of these guys on this defensive line who are it's kind of deep, if any of them transfer out, like if any of these kind of redshirt sophomores or, if they were like, I don't want to sit here for another 2-3 years, I'd rather go places, so that'll be interesting to see if anyone does transfer out because they don't see a clear path towards starting or they just don't like the amount of bodies that are in the room as well. So that'll be interesting to watch too.
I think if a guy's been there 2 years and he's not getting much experience and he sees himself buried in the chart, in the depth chart, I think you'll see a couple of guys leave the room.
Yeah, because what I'm hearing is that Leonard Warner is starting to get some play on the end, and with because Briggs is kind of a little bit banged up in the spring.
Seems like Leonard Warner has been here for like ever.
Yeah, there's a couple of those guys that just feels like they've been there for a while, but so like you said, they're playing around with guys and putting Warner now and playing with him on defensive end, and he's getting time and. He's been here, like you said, it seems like forever. And so there's just a lot of bodies and not everyone's going to get to play. Yeah. So there's going to be some attrition, I feel like. And, whether they bring another guy in, it'll be interesting too.
Yeah, because in reality, the defensive line, including the defensive ends, is going to have a big impact on how many games this team wins this year.
Yeah.
It's really going to have a big impact. They've got to get off the field. They've got to get off at 3 downs and out. We can't just have drive after drive. If not, this team's going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
It's going to be in trouble. So, okay. Any odds and ends there, KB?
No, I think we covered the Brownlee news, so we'll see where he ends up. Practice is continuing. Spring games coming up in a couple of weeks. I don't think there's anything, any other big news on the horizon.
I know. I got a couple of our listeners on not. During the week, kind of asked about Winston Wright. I haven't heard anything else on Winston.
We're not going to hear anything else.
No.
We said it. We gave the update last episode.
That's
He's
all.
out for an extended period of time. There's not going to be any more updates.
There's nothing else. So we wish him best in his recovery.
Yep.
That's it. That's it. No, that's it for me.
Yep, that's it. So if there's anything else that comes up or breaks, we'll be sure to post something. But that's our breakdown of the defensive line situation at Florida State. And until next time, we wish you the best, and we'll see you soon.
And we appreciate you listening in, and we know a lot of you, even if you're not on live and you catch it on the record, then we appreciate that, and we look forward to interacting with you guys anytime. And that includes the FSU team athletes out there. Any sport you want to come on and have an open mic with us sometime, just let us know. We'll be glad to have you. All right.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye, guys.